So my name is Desirae Haluk. I am the Chief Queen Bee here at Clairant Services. The honeybee in our logo is because I used to be a honeybee keeper, probably will be in the future as well, but it is very difficult to keep bees alive in New Jersey. I have been learning for many different reasons, but honeybees are so fascinating in their efficiency. And so I wanted to run my company, Clairant, like honeybees run their hives. And so that's where the honeybee in our logo came from, and everything is honeybee related in our branding. So today I want to talk about what consulting firms are doing wrong in their marketing plans. And the reason for this topic is because we mainly deal with consultants for our clients, and they come to us with very specific problems, and there's lots of commonalities. And what I find is that a lot of them they all have gaps in their marketing programs usually, otherwise they wouldn't be coming to us, but they are all very common. There's a bunch of them that come with the same issues. And so we're going to go over those same issues so that the same thing doesn't happen to you. We are the creator of the Ultimate Marketing Implementation Plan at Clairant. I'm honestly not going to even talk much about what we offer. I really just want to give you these free tips so that you guys can walk away with this and actually have an actionable plan at the end of it. But, we do have a really awesome 6-month program at Clairant that will help you alleviate a lot of these issues. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to start off with a question. Where do you fall short in your marketing program? And if you guys can just answer in the chat, just tell me, do you have gaps in your marketing plan or your marketing program? And if so, where do you fall short? What is like the top thing that comes up in your head when you think about your marketing at your business right now? I'll give you just a minute to just leave your answers in the chat. Where are you falling short in your marketing programs? Getting reach, but no interaction. That's a very common one. Not sure what marketing aspects to prioritize. Okay, very good. The correct messaging. Yep, that makes sense. Definitely. Any more? Any others that we can? So getting reach is huge. And actually some of these things will address that in here. Target markets. So important, Davis. Target markets. If you can't easily describe your target market, you need to sit down and do that with your team. Tying together everything strategically. Yep. These are definitely all issues that people come to us for. So let's start with the first one. The first one really is no brand consistency. And although a lot of you didn't add this on there, a lot of you aren't even aware of it, that you don't have any brand consistency. And what I mean by this is it's not only the use of your logo. Like, a lot of times actually people will stretch out their logo if they're just making a homemade marketing document or a sales material, or even something on their website. You want to make sure though, even beyond all of the visual branding aspects, you want those to be consistent, but also your messaging, right? And so you as either an owner or a professional in your company may describe your services or your products very differently than everyone else in your company. And you want to make sure that you have consistency there and that you are all describing those things in the same way. And the way to do that is to create a brand guide. And this doesn't have to be a crazy, beautiful document, although it can be. But your brand guide should have things like, and I'm just going to give you an example here of what we've created. This is only a couple pages of it, but they can be very thick documents. But these are just a few of them. So you want to make sure you have a value proposition statement. Okay, so what this is like, know exactly what you are bringing to your target market and say it in a very short sentence. You don't want to have to be talking for 2 minutes to describe what you do. You should be able to say this in 10 seconds or less. So make sure, and that goes to the elevator pitch, right? You want to have an elevator pitch on there as well. This could be your company values, your mission statement, your vision of the company. You want to make sure that you have your differentiators on there. You want to make sure that you're describing your target audience. Who are you targeting? Does everybody in the company know who you're targeting? If they don't, it's very important that they do. So make sure that all of that stuff goes on your brand guide. Then you have, of course, your proper usage of your logo, the way it should be stacked with or without the tagline, what the tagline is. Do you even know what the tagline of your company is? Do you have one? Should you have one if you don't? Your color palette, another thing. We want to make sure that every piece of sales or marketing documents that you have out there is consistent with the color, because screens are different, printers are different. So you want to make sure that they're using the proper hex codes. Same with your website. Everything should be consistent. So a brand guide is what you want to be creating if you have no brand consistency. Once you have this brand guide, you want to make sure you're sharing it with your company internally and externally, depending on, who you're working with, who deals with your brand, PR people, you want marketing people, your sales operations, everybody should have their hands on this document. And you don't want them to slip it under the stacks of endless papers that they have on their desks or in their files, in the downloads file, like way down below. You want to make sure that you're using it, okay? So every time that you're creating anything to do with marketing or sales, you want to make sure that this brand guide is front and center. You also want to make sure that you go over it quarterly with your team. Our businesses are totally dynamic. They're always changing. And that means your brand guide is probably changing, because probably your messaging is changing as well. We offer new services. We take some services away. Some things are seasonal, some things aren't. Maybe our target market has been pivoting. So you want to make sure all of that stuff stays up to date in your brand guide, and go over it with your team quarterly, okay? And then optimize it annually. So go in there, make changes, but anytime something big happens, make sure that brand guide gets updated, because there's a lot of companies with brand guides that were created 10 years ago, and none of the information is relevant. Even the logos have changed, so make sure that you are optimizing it annually. Does anyone have any questions about brand consistency before we move on to the next topic? All good. All right. Next question. Is your website updated? Please answer in the chat. Right now, at this moment, is your website that represents your business updated? Yes. Awesome, Robin. Davis, yes, great. No to Diane. I love your emoji. Yes, awesome. That's really good. We usually get about, and Cassie says, no, not at the moment. We are having some problems. So that's very common. So most of the time we get about 50% when we ask people that. And you want to make sure that your website is updated. So that's one of the second common problems of our clients or our prospects' issues for their marketing, is that their website is usually updated when they come to us. And so think of it as if you're on the local main street in your community and you're walking up the street and you have two coffee shops side by side, and one of them has broken windows and the doors hanging off of the hinges and it hasn't been painted in 20 years. And you don't even know if it's open or not. And then the one next door has a fresh coat of paint. The windows are clean and they're not broken. The door is open and inviting. You can hear some music playing. There's maybe seating outside with flowers and balloons. Which one seems more inviting to you? This is your online storefront, your website, right? And I want you to think of your website as that example that I just gave. You're never going to walk into the abandoned building. You're going to go into the one where there's stuff happening. And that's how I want you to treat your website. So for how you should be updating your website, if you need a couple ideas, make sure your navigation menu is simplified. This is so important because so many people have these complicated websites where you can't find what services they offer. You can't find their contact information. It's all there, but you really have to dig for it. And you don't want to make your visitors do that on your website. So you want to make sure that your navigation menu is simplified. The next thing is have contrasting colors. So this kind of goes with your brand guide. Make sure that you have your primary colors, which usually your logo is part of those primary colors, and then secondary colors, which helps you contrast. If you have dark text, make sure it's on a light background. If you have light text, make sure it's on a dark background. Okay, so contrasting colors is very, very important on a website, and make sure the text is large enough for everybody to read it. Make sure it's not tiny and you need a magnifying glass. The next thing is easy to find information on your offerings. You want to make sure that if you offer services, most of you, it's probably services and not products. But if you offer services, make sure that you have those very clearly stated on your website and very easy to find. Because a lot of times people are wondering, oh, what do they offer? And if you have to dig for that for more than 5 seconds, they're gone. They're done. They're onto a competitor's site. So make sure it is easy to find your offerings on your website. Clear call to actions is the next one. So many websites on a bunch of their landing pages have either zero call to actions or the wrong ones. For example, if on a services page, the only option is to click to an FAQs landing page, that is not what you're looking for. You want maybe a free consultation. Click here to join our webinar, join our newsletter. You can have contact us. As long as there's somewhere for them to go that you want them to do. It could be purchase this book, join us for our next course. So whatever you want them to do when they visit your website, you want to make it very clear on a button that has contrast and it's popping out at you. So make sure that your call to actions are A, they are there, and B, that they are very clear and easy to find. Don't make them blend in with the background. You want those buttons to pop. Contact information. You want to make sure that you are displaying contact information on every page that somebody may land on. The easiest way to do that is either to put your phone number or something in the navigation menu at the top, or to use your footer and add your contact information in your footer. You also want to make, because what that does is that allows when everybody's navigating through your site, no matter what page they're on, you change it once and it's on your footer on every single page. Also have a contact us page. This may offer, where are your locations for all of your business locations. There could be a map on there. You want to give them the option to fill out a form if they want to get a hold of you, or if you have the form fill, give them another option to just click on a phone number or click on an email address. This is really important because it's really frustrating when someone just has a form fill on their contact us page and you cannot find any other contact information there. You want to make sure that you give them the option. If they want to fill out the form and give us more information, fine. But if they just want to click, and make them clickable, make sure that you hyperlink your phone number and your email address on your website. Not only is that good for SEO, it's very convenient for your visitors, because if they want to contact you, it's a click of a button rather than a copy and paste thing. And then you're going to lose them, because we have no attention spans these days and we don't want to be inconvenienced. And that is one way to inconvenience a visitor to your website. The next thing is have your value proposition statement that I talked about in the brand guide, have that very clearly displayed on your homepage. When somebody lands there, they should know A, who your target market is, B, what you are offering in a single sentence, and C, what your differentiators are. Why should they choose you over any other consultant or whatever you may do in your business? Why should they choose you? This is really important because there are websites out there where I have no clue what they do, and I wouldn't know if they weren't my client, or I wouldn't know if I hadn't already heard from them. Maybe it was referred to me by somebody. The problem is when you're creating your own website, you are an expert and you are assuming that everybody on the receiving end of your website is also an expert, and that's not always the case. So it's usually not the case. You are the expert and you're teaching them. So you want to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but you want to simplify it and speak to the level of your visitors and your prospects. So make sure that you have those things clearly displayed. And then the last thing is make sure you have internal and external links on your website. On all of your pages, make sure that you have internal links will link to other pages in your website. And for example, if you have a blog and maybe your blog has something to do with some of your services that you offer, link that blog to your services page. Maybe on the services page, link to a case study that showcases how the successes of one of your clients and how they succeeded after using your services. So that's an example of how they either land on your blog and go away because there's no internal links, or they will land on 3 different pages because of your internal links, because they're interested. This is really going to help you for SEO, for search engine optimization. Google loves it when there are more than 1 pages per visit. And so if you have 3 pages per visit, that means that you're spending more time there because you're reading 3 versus 1 page. And it means that probably the information on your site is relevant, and Google loves relevant information. So they're going to rank you higher. The same goes for external links on your website. You want to make sure you're linking to other reputable websites. So sometimes you may be approached by other blog writers who say, hey, I noticed you wrote a blog about this. We have a blog that's kind of related to that, but they're not your direct competitor. Would you mind linking to our blog? That is one good way of you finding an external link. If you mention a platform or a software that you may be using, link to that website. That as long as it's a good, reputable website and it ranks fairly high, then use them. If it's a really crappy website, don't do it. But it's just a good way of you getting backlinks and linking to other reputable sources. Google really likes that. Do we have any questions about updating your website? How often should you update the content? That's a very good question. So I would say at least weekly. And a good way to do this is to use a blog. And if you're writing a blog once a week, that's a really good thing to post weekly. If you have things like maybe you have courses or events or webinars that you're doing, make sure that you are always including a banner or you're promoting it somehow on your homepage. That's another way to update your website. So make sure that you're always whatever events that you're associated with your company, make sure you're posting them there. Google really likes that. They like it when your content is updated and when it's current. If you have something on there that was from 6 months ago, they don't like that. So, and the bots will catch that kind of stuff. So make sure, I would say weekly, but I mean, for us, it's almost on a daily basis that we go in there and just tweak a little. Like, we don't do it for the sake of changing content. We do it because we really do need to change the content. But the best way to do that is adding a blog to your website. And that gives you more good quality content that is searchable by the users of Google. Very good question. All right. So next topic. When is the last time you added to your contact list? And I'm specifically referring to like your CRM that you would use for email marketing. So when was the last time you added to your contact list? Maybe quarterly. Okay, well, that's not so bad. Better than answering last year. Anybody else? A weekly basis. That's really good. That's excellent. Weekly. Good, Robin. This is really good. I'm very impressed. Any more? Monthly. That's not bad. That's good. Okay. So I'm going to carry on here. And if you can guess, a stagnant contact list is very common when we get prospects coming to us. Their contact lists are stagnant, and that is not a good thing, because with your contact list, people are constantly moving in and out of jobs, which means they get new emails and their old emails become inactive. They may unsubscribe from your list. There's people coming in and out of the industry. So you want to always make sure that you are adding to that contact list. So a few ways that you can do that if you're not already doing this. I love the positive answers in the chat, though. That's really great. A few ways are joining associations where your target market hangs out. Okay. So make sure when you join an association, normally when you become a member, you also are given access to their contact list. Sometimes that can be thousands or 10,000s of people, depending on what associations you're joining. So that is one very good way or method of growing your contact list. Okay. The next thing is joining, LinkedIn. Most of you are probably on LinkedIn, but if you have Sales Navigator, LinkedIn is a very, very good tool that you can use to filter out people in different job titles, companies, industries. And you can, with Sales Navigator, you can get a certain amount of their actual contact information, because usually LinkedIn will not reveal their email to you or their phone numbers, unless of course they reveal that on their profile. So you want to make sure that if you have Sales Navigator, that you are maxing that out as much as you can, finding your target market. So that's the second way. The third way is using databases like lead411.com or ZoomInfo. There are plenty other platforms that you can use to do the same thing. But pretty much what these platforms do is you have access to millions of people in their database, and they have a method of updating these emails on a daily basis. They're always updating emails and making sure that they are active. And you can use filters, whether that's industry, it might be an SIC code, a job title, it can be a business name, maybe employees, amount of employees, or revenue, annual revenue. So you can use all these different types of filters so that you can access your target market, and then you can download their contact information from there. And generally they run about, I know Lead 411 is about 50 cents a contact, just to give you an idea of pricing. But it's a very good way of you constantly adding to your contact list. Of course, there's networking. Networking is always great because you're face to face with people usually, or of course on Zoom. And that's a really good icebreaker. So grab their business card or get their contact information online, and then you add them to your email marketing list. And then, of course, conferences or, roundtable stuff like that you can attend. These are all very good ways of adding to your contact list. So it is a numbers game, and we'll get more into the numbers later. But what I want you to do with your contact list is I want you to take some of your thought leadership, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well. But everybody joining your contact list for the first time, they should be considered as cold contacts, because they haven't been exposed to your brand or your thought leadership yet. And you don't really know, they are cold. They truly are cold. And so what you should do is tag them as cold in your email marketing platform. And then I want you to deliver free low value content to them. And what I mean by low value content is, thank you to Russell Brunson, who is the author of .com Secrets, which is an incredible book. All of you should read it if you haven't. If you have time to read it, read it. But he created something that's called this value ladder. And on the y-axis, it's price. And on the x-axis, it's value. And when you look into the corner where the 90-degree angle is, that is your pretty much free low value content that you are offering to all of those cold contacts. So as you go up the staircase, you are wanting to increase the value of the content that you're giving them, and then you're slowly asking them to pay more money for it. So, but you have to start somewhere, and that's usually with free. So examples of this would be a free downloadable piece of content. It could be join our free webinar. It could be join us at our free event. It could be an online event, whatever that may be, maybe a free report, something like that. So that's an example of free low value content. And so once you send an email to those cold contacts, and if they click, then you want to tag them as warm. If they clicked on your content, it means that they've been exposed to it. They were interested enough to click on it, and they probably read it. So now they are tagged as warm contacts. So those now will go into a separate list. What you want to send to the warm contacts is mid-level value content. Okay. And so let's go back to the value ladder. we're now in the yellow section in the middle. This could be, hey, we noticed that you joined our webinar last week. You may be interested in the book that we wrote, or you may be interested in these courses that we offer, or you may be interested in consulting services, or whatever it may be that with your mid-value content, okay? You're asking them to pay a little now. So now they take out their credit cards and they pay you a little bit for whatever you are offering. Okay. And so if they do take out their credit cards and they pay you, they are now tagged as hot leads. Okay. So everybody with a hot tag should now be sent high value, high priced items. This could be a retreat that you're offering. It could be a long-term course. It could be an expensive conference, like whatever that may be to you. And remember, these things don't have to be like crazy expensive. It's whatever you have on your services list that you could ask them to pay. But the point is that when you're thinking about marketing to these people, when you look at the value ladder, if you were to start with a cold leads, offering them like a retreat that costs $4,000 or a conference that costs $1,500 to attend, they're going to delete your email, right? But if you start with free, low value content and you start building the trust with them, and then you offer them, hey, did you know I'm an author of this book? If you like that, you may like this. So you are working them up into the high value, high price content rather than starting right away with, hey, buy this from me, and they have no clue who you are. So you are just building trust and you're building up your brand. And that is why growing your contact list is very important, because again, it is a numbers game. If you have a 20% open rate and a 2% click rate from 100 people you're sending that to, that's 2 people who clicked. That means 2 people who are tagged as warm. So you're only sending 2 more emails for the warm stuff, right? So if you have thousands, that 20% and that 2% grows. If you have tens of thousands, it grows even more. So it's just a numbers game. So the more that you can grow your contact list, the better you will be in the future. Do we have any questions? And I hope everybody understood that correctly. If you didn't, please ask questions. Any questions? All right, I'm going to move on. If anyone has questions, just write them and I can always stop. All right. Next question. Thank you, Nelson. What was your last piece of thought leadership that you created and when was it? So let me know. When was the last time that you created a thought leadership piece? And that could be blogs, webinars, social media posts, anything. Informational video last month. That's great. That's awesome. That's very good. Anybody else? Does that just mean you haven't created thought leadership? Published a book today and produced a documentary last week. That's amazing, Nelson. Wow. Very nice. Blog last week, social media this week. Awesome. This is really good. So continue to do that. Blogs every 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, that's good. Davis, that's awesome. All right. So the next problem that we see come to us from our clients is that they are lacking thought leadership. Okay. And so a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to create this beautiful website, and then they just leave it sitting there and they don't do anything with it. And so what you want to do is fill your online presence with thought leadership. Okay. And here are some ideas that you can take with you to create thought leadership with. So first one, obviously social media posts. Now, I don't want you to think that social media is a lead generating tool. When you're organically posting consistently on social media, it's more of a validation tool than generating leads. And what I mean by that, unless of course you're doing paid ads, that's a totally different thing. But when you're organically posting on your business page on social media, what that does is if somebody is looking up you and a competitor, and they're, of course, the first thing they do is Google you, and you're going to pop up in your social media platforms, your website's going to be there. They're going to check how current and up to date you are. If you post once a month on your social media platform and your competitor is doing it every day, who do you think they're going to choose? right? And this is the same for keeping your content on your website updated. So that's why organic social media posting is very, very important. And it's also an excellent channel to push out your thought leadership. Okay. So blogs are the next thing. You should be blogging once a week. And if you haven't started this, at least start with once or twice a month. But once a week is the goal for blogs. Okay. When I first started Clairant 4 years ago, I committed to writing a blog a week. And I was so desperate to find topics and everything. I remember I'd be in my swimming pool with a cocktail in one hand and my phone, my dictation on my phone on the other. And I'm literally talking into my phone about the blogs I'm going to post on Monday. And I did that for a year. It got a lot of content, at least 52 blogs on the site, which was great when you start. But it was a pain in my butt. And so, of course, now I have writers that do that. And so I'm lucky now, but it is a lot. Blog writing is a lot, especially when it's meaningful. And so it's not as easy as it sounds, but also once you get into the groove of it, then it becomes easier. Okay, so blogs. Videos, if you can do a video a week is fantastic, but most people don't have the resources on their team for editing the video. It's easy to create one, but it's the editing that is, and you don't always have to edit a video. People love that raw footage, so you can still do that. But it's so wonderful to have that editing power on your team or externally, wherever you can find it, because it does bring that professionalism to your videos. But at least do one a month for videos. Emails, I want you sending 1 to 2 prospect emails per week, and people will not unsubscribe if you are giving them good quality content, like we talked about on that value ladder. Okay, so 1 to 2 prospect emails a week. Your website content should be updated as needed, but at least once a week. And hopefully, if you are writing your blog, that is part of your content being updated on your website. Case studies at least once a quarter. These are so, so important. If you've had clients in the past and they were happy, create a case study out of them. You do not have to have a 6-page case study. Have a 1-pager that just says, what was the environment before they approached you? Why did they approach you? What issues were they facing? And then what were the results after you provided the solution? That's all you need. It could be 3 simple paragraphs, maybe a couple infographical statistics. If you can actually use numbers to gauge the success, that's the absolute best. But case studies are so valuable in marketing. So make sure that you are creating those. White papers is another great thing. It's really good for applications. Maybe you don't even have customers yet, but you want them to envision themselves using your products or services. White papers are awesome. Reports, ebooks, articles, guides, tips and tricks types of things, templates, roadmaps, research studies, webinars, podcasts, events, conferences, roundtables, panels. This is all thought leadership. And these are really excellent ways for you to show that you are an expert in your industry. And then you have the visual, infographical content, and press releases. If anything exciting happens with your business, make sure you put a press release on the wire. It brings in tons of traffic, a lot of exposure to your business, and press releases can be very useful. Is there any questions about thought leadership? And hoping that everybody, this maybe sparked some enthusiasm in all of you, creating some more thought leadership. All right, I'm going to move on. Now, speaking of thought leadership, do you all present webinars? Does any of you create webinars for a lead generating or thought leadership piece? Yes or no? Do you create webinars? Yes, awesome. Not yet, but I'd like to know more, okay? No. For a year, Caprice, that's awesome. That's really great. Okay, so we have a mixture. That's the next thing is webinars are really awesome. No, actually, but this is giving me inspiration to implement them. Awesome, Lucy. They really are excellent. The reason why webinars are excellent is because they're kind of twofold in the benefits. They are excellent thought leadership pieces. And what you can do is when you are presenting a webinar, you are usually recording that webinar. And once you record it, you can give it to your video editor and they can split up that webinar into, like, for example, we're talking about 5 different topics. That can be 5 different video clips from the one webinar. So even though I'm standing here for 1 hour, we can create video clips that seems like I've been talking for 5 hours, even though they're not going to be an hour long each, but at least they're, maybe 5-minute clips that we can share on social media, our website, post them on YouTube, send them via email. And so this is really a really great way of creating thought leadership pieces and showcasing that you are an expert in your industry. The second thing is they're effective lead generating tools. If you have the right platform for that you're using for webinars, like I use Webinar Ninja, and I've used many different platforms in the past. I don't want you creating a webinar plan without having a webinar platform. And the reason is because if you use Zoom, like just a meeting or Google Meet, it is so distracting because you are constantly asking people to mute. You don't get any of the analytics in the back end. You don't know who is, answering polls. You don't know who attended versus who registered. It's so much better to have a platform. So make sure that you are using an actual webinar platform if you do decide to do this. They are a great tool to learn about your audience. Lucy, could you give us a bit more information on how you prepare for a webinar if I were to start? Yes, the next slide is all about the way you're going to promote one. So yes, I will. Great tool to learn about your audience. So I'm asking you guys questions all the time because I'm learning about your businesses. I'm learning about who you are, where you're from. It's very engaging because everybody, like in these days, listening to a monologue is not interesting anymore. If you wanted to do that, you could just watch a YouTube video, right? So webinars are just a way for you to interact and engage with your audience. There's also polls that you can ask questions. There are also, when you register and you have to fill out the form, you can choose all the different fields that you want to ask questions to your viewers. So it's a really great way of learning more about your audience. And the best thing is that it's trackable. So you can tell who registered, who did attend, who didn't attend, who landed on your registration page but didn't actually fill out the form. So then you could retarget those people. You want to make sure that you are looking up all the chat. What was the activity in the chat? And what are you going to do about it on follow-up? So these are the benefits of a webinar, and it's really great to showcase that you're an expert in the industry, but also to use it to gain more clients for yourself. Next slide. Okay, so how to promote webinars, and this will answer hopefully Lucy's question. Lucy, if this doesn't answer your question, then please let me know. We can either talk later or just let me know in the chat. So when you are promoting webinars, I want you to start at least 4 to 6 weeks prior to your actual presentation. Okay, you want to make sure that you choose a platform that makes sense for you. I will tell you right now, I am paying $30 a month for Webinar Ninja, and I absolutely love it. I've used so many other platforms, and this is the one that has the least amount of hiccups for me. I just love how easy it is to use, to create thank you pages, registration pages. Everything is kind of pre-done for you. As long as you write it once, it will pre-populate everything else. So Webinar Ninja, no, they are not paying me, by the way. I'm doing this out of the goodness of my heart. But I just love the platform so much. And I pay $30 a month and I do 1 webinar a month. So that's pretty much $30 a webinar that it is costing me. So the next thing is create a short video. So just like I'm standing here talking to you, doing a 1-hour webinar presentation, I also did this for about 30 seconds to a minute to promote the webinar. So get people excited about it. Talk about how you're going to change their lives with the information that you're actually giving them on the webinar. So do a short video presentation first so that you can use that for promotion. Then you want to create your registration page. Okay. And once you do this within the platform, you will then retrieve the link and you want to add your short video in the registration page. All right. The next thing I want you to do is create a banner on your website. So many people will wait till the day before their webinar to create a banner on their website, or they don't think of it at all. You want to make sure that you are promoting that as early as possible. As soon as that registration page is created, add it to your website and put it on the homepage. As soon as somebody lands, there should be a little banner and it should tell you date, time, and title of the presentation of the webinar, and then a button to click to register, and that should go through to your registration page. And then you will get all the tracking information on Webinar Ninja or whatever one you use. All of the webinar platforms will usually track everything like that. After you have your banner set up in your website, I want you to create 3 to 4 email invites. Do not just copy and paste them and do all the same thing. Try different things. Some people like bullet form. This is what you will learn. Some people like a short paragraph. Other people like the video. Try different things. You also, if you have a list of, however many hundreds or thousands that you're actually inviting this to, make sure that the first email is sent to everybody. And then depending on if you have a large list, you want to make sure that you are sending email invite number 2 to just the clickers or openers. Now, if you don't have a huge list, you can send it to everybody 4 times. It's fine. But just try to remove the people who already have registered. But definitely if you are strategic about it and your email marketing platform will tell you who clicked on it, that's a way of you converting them because you know that they've already clicked. So you can deliver a different message to the clickers. Say, we noticed you were on here on our landing page. Here's your last chance to join, something like that. The next thing is to create 3 to 4 organic social media posts. Okay. And then disperse these. And by the way, the last email invite should either go out on the day before the webinar or the morning of. And your organic posts on social media do the same type of thing. Aside from your organic posts, I want you to create events on LinkedIn and Facebook if you are on those platforms. And the nice thing is when you create these events that are separate from organic posts, you have to actually go into create an event on your side panel. Once you create the events on LinkedIn, there's then a share tab that you can go, and then it exposes all of your connections and it says, do you want to invite your connections? So you want to click yes. And if you have thousands of connections, like most people do on LinkedIn, most professionals have a few thousand or more, you want to make sure that you are only inviting them by industry, like depending on who your target audience is, unless all of your connections are your target audience, which most people it's not. So for me, I only target consultants on my LinkedIn profile. And so only the consultants will get the invite from LinkedIn to your event. So that's a very good way of increasing your registrants. And then, so make sure you share the event and then follow up. This is huge. Make sure, what do you do? If people are sitting on your webinar and you're talking to them, you're interacting with them, what are you supposed to do for follow-up? So come up with a plan with your team to work on those leads, because they become leads for you. If they're interested and they're sitting on your webinar for that long, they probably have interest in what you're talking about. So start a conversation with them and figure out how to do that. Lucy, did that answer your question? And does anyone else have any other questions before we close this up and move to questions? Okay, no problem, Lucy. All right. So let's just go over a little bit of an overview of what we talked about today. So the 5 major shortfalls that our consultants come to us with are usually they have no brand consistency. And to alleviate that, you should create a brand guide and share it. Don't only create it, share it with your team and share it consistently. Your website isn't updated. This is very, very common. Make sure you are updating it and use the list that I gave you on that one slide. If you need me to send it to you, I will send you the PDF of these slides so that you can, go over that with your web developer or whoever takes care of your website. They are easy fixes. They're not that difficult. The third one is email marketing list is stagnant. This is so common. I would say that's probably the most common. That and the website is dated is probably the most common, and they don't see the value in it. But I explain to you the value in it, and make sure you're thinking about that value ladder and create your own. Just create price on the y-axis and value on the x-axis, and then right in there on the little staircase, fill in that information. What information will you send to the cold leads? What are you going to send to the mid-level leads, mid-value leads? And what are your high-ticket items? And that will really organize your content so that you can deliver the right content to the right contacts on your list. You're lacking thought leadership, very common. So make sure you start somewhere, whether that's your first webinar, whether that is a blog, whether it's a video. And don't worry, videos, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so afraid to be in front of the camera. Just do it the first time and you will gain confidence. And don't worry, I do 5-minute marketing with Clairant, and my first videos sucked. They totally did. It was good content, but I was nervous and I didn't know what I was doing. Not that I'm great right now, but I'm just saying that you get better, you get more confident, and you really stop caring about what people think. Lucy is saying, you did mention how you prospect and what prospects you target. Do you have any more advice on prospecting to grow our business? That's probably a larger conversation, Lucy. So maybe we should chat after the webinar. So I will contact you and we can have that chat, because it definitely matters who your target audience is and what you have to offer. The last one on the list here is not presenting webinars, another piece of thought leadership. So make sure you plan one. They are excellent for showing you are an expert in the industry, and they are also really great lead generating tools. So just to let you know, our next webinar in July, because a lot of you come with the issue of you have no time. So I decided to present the next webinar on marketing hacks for busy consultants, efficient marketing in just 20 minutes or less daily.